House of EdTech, Episode 3.
Hi, my name is Alex Rosenwald, science educator, tech enthusiast, and I'm a huge fan of the House of EdTech.
Welcome to the third episode of the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nessie. The House of EdTech is the podcast that explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objective is to discuss the technology that is changing our classrooms and schools. You can count on House of EdTech for information you can hear about today and use tomorrow. Because whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. Okay, everybody, welcome to the third episode. Before I get to today's featured content, I do need to set the record straight. Thank you to my new loyal listener, Karina Gonzalez, who is a library media specialist, for pointing out the fact that through the first two episodes of this program, I've done a major assumption. I'm assuming you know how to spell Nessie when you search for it and try to find the podcast. So, how do you spell Nessie? My name is Chris Nessie, N as in Nancy, E-S-I. So when I talk about Mr. Nessie, now you know how to spell it. When I talk about my email and my Twitter, you spell Nessie, N-E-S-I. And thank you to Miss Karina Gonzalez for pointing out the obvious to me, which I did not realize I needed to do. So thank you, Karina. I also like to let you guys know that if you go to the show notes for this week's episode, which I will give you the address at the end of the episode, I've made a change to the show notes, which I think will be much easier to follow and provide a little bit more about the episode that you're listening to after you listen to it and you want to go back and see what it's all about, or maybe you've just come across the website and you want to know what the episode is about and what the content is. So I think I've made it better. So I did not lie to you in the first episode when I said this is an evolving process that will change over time and allow me to provide the best possible program. You may also have noticed through the first couple of minutes that I sound different. I got a new microphone. In my most recent blog post, I got a new Blue Yeti microphone, the ultimate professional USB microphone. So I am really excited that hopefully I sound better and I'm producing a better quality program. So I'm very excited about my new microphone. So enjoy this sweet, soothing sound of my voice, everybody. If I do sound a little congested, I am getting over a little bit of a cold this week, so I'm also trying not to sound nasally and sick. So enjoy this episode. Let's get to my featured content, and that is an interview that I sat down and recorded with a very good friend, family member, and my cousin, Mr. Joseph Iacono. So let's get right into that interview. Okay, everybody, I'm going to be welcoming in this week's guest. This week we're going to be talking to Mr. Joseph Iacono, the EdTech Maestro. My good friend, and I'm not going to lie, Joseph Iacono is my cousin. We are family. So I've known Joe my whole life. And he, like myself, is an educator. And he has a great passion for technology. Mr. Iacono, the EdTech Maestro, works for the New York City Department of Education, where he's been doing various jobs and working as a teacher for the last 10 years. In this time, he has spent time as a K-6 classroom teacher. He's also a data specialist. He's also worked as a technology coach. And in his current role with the New York City Department of Education, he works for what's called Innovation Zone. And I'm definitely going to have Joe talk about that, where he works as a learning management system specialist. Joe has also, obviously, he's gotten a college education. He's a graduate of the College of Staten Island, which is part of the City University of New York system. And he's got his master's. Do you have your master's, Joe?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he does have his master's. And he also has his uh, administrator's license from the College of St. Rose. So without any further ado, let's talk to Joseph, the EdTech Maestro, Iacono. How you doing, Joe?
Great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It is the pleasure is all mine. Tell me a little bit about what Innovation Zone is for the New York City Department of Education.
Sure, no problem. Well, the Innovation Zone started out as a 5-year pilot program through the New York City Department of Education. It's an opportunity to offer online courses, a blended learning model, to mostly high school students who are under credit. And we've expanded in recent years to offer courses to now middle school children as well. Our team consists of implementation managers and myself. And our job basically is to, support schools in offering these blended learning courses to high school kids using our e-learning platform. And the platform of choice that the Department of Education has implemented is the Desire to Learn learning environment, which basically just offers e-learning courses. If you're familiar with maybe Blackboard or Moodle, it's very similar to that environment. And we've been expanding over the recent years. I mean, they started out with about 15 schools, and now we're up to over 260 schools across all 5 boroughs. We have nearly 60,000 students logging into our platform on a weekly basis. And we're just hoping that we can keep expanding into the future.
Now, the current use for this platform, is this for students who they failed and they're trying to get credits back if they're high school students, or can students use this in place of, I guess, what they're doing in the classroom already?
Well, it's a great question, Chris. Thanks for asking. And it really depends on the school and the school's environment. Some schools are providing it for children. So, for example, in New York City, we have these high schools called transfer schools where kids that are a little bit over age, they attend these transfer schools and to basically make up credit so they can graduate. And in those cases, it's really just a credit recovery type of a system where the kids are being enrolled in these online courses and they're just taking these classes and trying to skim through them as quickly as possible using, with our content teacher, working together with the teacher face-to-face. Other schools are using it more in an after-school program type of a setting where students are just taking extra credits to try to accumulate some advanced placement courses and various different models, while other schools are using it in place of their traditional classrooms. So, the kids have options to take some of these blended classes and at the same time still take their traditional classrooms. I mean, just on the side note, though, the Innovation Zone is not doing anything like fully online where the kids are allowed to stay home or anything like that. Our program is strictly a blended learning model, so the kids are still required to attend school and to be in a physical school building. There are some cases where we have, and this is like really where the innovation really starts to happen, is we have certain high schools that want to offer programs like French, yet they don't have a French teacher. So how does the innovation help that? Well, we connect French teachers from other schools across the borough, across the city that has a French teacher and connect it with another school. And therefore, through our blended learning system and our e-environment, they're able to teach the kids from a different school. And now schools have the opportunity to offer courses and subjects that they may not have offered in the past. So that's really where the collaboration and this innovation is really working well for us.
That is really, that's good to hear. I remember, when I was in high school, there was one teacher who taught some history courses to another local high school, and it was in, the distance learning lab. But to see that happening, that's almost, it could be standard practice where, you don't have that, say it's a world language teacher or it's another subject teacher, the students can have that opportunity. In terms of online learning, in your experience, what makes online learning effective? Is it just the platform? What kind of what factors go into, in your opinion, what makes it effective?
Well, there's a few factors that key into the success of any online program. First and foremost, there's a fear out there that these online programs are going to replace teachers, and teachers aren't going to be needed anymore. But it's actually, in my experience, almost the complete opposite, where the teachers are needed now more than ever. I mean, if you have good, dedicated teachers who are willing to embrace this technology and embrace these new environments, that's one of the most important factors, is having strong educators willing to do it. And, with a strong educator comes the ability to share their knowledge even further than they've ever thought possible. Now they can reach students in other schools, not only across the city, but across the country. Another important factor in a positive and strong environment is having the right technology. I mean, schools need to have the proper infrastructure, and I'm happy to hear that, especially in New York State, that the governor is looking into allowing some more federal money to come down into the state and the city to help the technology infrastructure in New York City, and hopefully that will spread across the nation. Having the proper technology and the proper tools, and that's one of the things that the Innovation Zone does as well, is that we also provide hardware to the schools, and we've also provided the hardware upgrades necessary to implement this program.
When you talk about hardware, what, are we talking iPads, laptops?
Yeah, well, mostly it's laptops, and the schools that have participated in our program over the last 3-4 years now have either received carts of PCs or Macs, depending on their preference. And on top of that, we've also sent out technicians to upgrade all the wireless bandwidth in all the buildings, because you can't run a program like the Innovation Zone and the iZone without a real plan. And if we were to just simply implement this program without this necessary upgrades and hardware, it just would have failed and came back at us. So, it's really important that schools and institutions across the country and the globe have the technology in place. And the last factor, I think, that really holds a key to a successful online program is strong curriculum. It's just got to be aligned. It's got to be interactive. It's got to be engaging. You don't want to, a lot of schools and get mixed up with the idea of, okay, let's just take this textbook and put it online. There's really nothing innovative about taking a textbook and making it into a digital format. That's not innovation. Innovation is the interaction, the multimedia, the questioning, the feedback. It's the kids. You need to keep the kids engaged. So it's not just a do it yourself. It's not going to just run itself. It really needs a lot of these factors have to all come together to really make it shine.
Now, when you say interactivity, and it's not just putting a book online, what are some of the tools that you use or you encourage teachers to use to create this dynamic content? What tools do you like?
Great. Yeah. Well, a good thing for me is, Chris, a lot of my background comes from the web tools and innovative tools. Prior to being the LMS specialist for the iZone, I was doing a lot of staff development for innovation tools and looking for free tools and teaching teachers how to teach with technology. So one of the things that we do push now is not only having this learning environment with our content for teachers to use, but incorporating third-party tools to really help with that engagement. And some of the stronger and tools that I like to use to get the kids going, tools like Prezi. Most of the tools that I'm going to mention now are free tools that any teacher can just use. So we have Prezi, which is like a PowerPoint on steroids. It's a really great way to open up a lesson. Tools like Socrative, which is an informal assessment tool, tools like Poll Everywhere, we kind of incorporate. We also do some podcasting with the teachers, teaching them how to podcast. So a teacher can have podcasts to introduce their units, and those podcasts can play directly from our learning environment. We also try to teach them how to use online web conferencing tools so that teachers can hold conferencing hours or group discussions outside of the classroom with the kids in an open environment. It could be live, but after school hours or on the weekends, all the kids and the teachers can come together to talk and collaborate in this online environment. And my favorite tool that I really love lately, it's like an amazing, amazing tool, is Powtoons. It's like a presentation type of a tool, but it creates these like videos of like really, really engaging visual representations. So that's one of my all-time favorite tools right now is using Powtoons, and I've come to really enjoy creating and opening.
Is that powtoon.com, Powtoon?
Yes, it's Powtoon. It's changed a lot recently. They've done some major updates to it, and a lot of animations and sound effects, and it's just really a great tool that I've enjoyed using.
Well, I'm looking at the site right now, and it gets no better than its headline, which says it's free and it's awesome.
There you go.
Cool. So everybody needs to check out Powtoons. Is that an official EdTech Maestro recommendation?
That is one of my recommendations. Yeah, I recommend Powtoon. It's a great site.
Nice. Going back to when you were in the classroom, what were some of the ways that you like to integrate technology?
Well, now we're going back a ways. So I've been out of the classroom now. This is going on 5 years out of the classroom. And when I was in the classroom, it was a little different back then because there wasn't nearly as many tools out there as there are now. And I taught mostly like very early childhood, first grade students for most of my career that I was in the classroom. So teaching students at that age was a little challenging, especially with technology. We didn't have the iPads yet. There weren't really the iPhone. Nothing was mainstream in the classrooms. But, I worked with the kids to create a website. We had a science website on the planets. So I did create simple websites for the kids to they would do the research. We would talk about the different topics together, and then instead of it coming together maybe on like a plain old cardboard whiteboard, presentation like the old school science fairs, we created our projects and we presented through a website. So the kids really enjoyed doing that. And I did some early type of like blogging tools with them. Twitter wasn't really mainstream in the classroom yet. I mean, I had Twitter, but it wasn't really being used in the classroom 5 or 6 years ago. So that was kind of out of the question. But we did some simple blogging. We did a lot of PowerPoint presentations. So back then it was really a lot of simple stuff, but it seems so simple now. But looking back then, it was really so innovative. There wasn't a lot of teachers doing PowerPoint presentations in my school. There was certainly no teachers really building websites with their kids. So I was definitely on the cutting. I always try to be on the cutting edge as technology progresses. It's a little different now because I'm on the opposite side of things, and I don't really have that time to really be as innovative as I'd like. I try to keep up with blogs and Twitter people on Twitter and people on social media to keep up with all the different things that are happening. I wish I had more time to actually use all these tools that sometimes I share and I talk about, but unfortunately, I don't work with kids as much anymore, so it's a little bit of a...
But you're doing the next best thing. You're impacting and working with teachers who are going to be using these tools with the students.
Yes. And we still do our workshops. I mean, I certainly do present here and there. And actually coming up On February 3rd, we have our third symposium for the iLearn program, and basically that's going to be a full day of professional development for all teachers, administrators that are involved in the iLearn program. It's free to register, free to attend, just a full day of great workshops, and it's excitement. It's going to be happening at the Boys and Girls High School in New York City. So looking forward to that on February 3rd.
And that's here on the iLearn NYC wiki space?
Yes, if you go to ilearnnyc.wikispaces.com, that's like kind of our official, unofficial site for resources and upcoming professional development, all of our workshops, any type of training that we have, any resources that you may need. Everything can always be found on that website, and on that site is our information about our third symposium.
Now, in your position now, what do you like to, what are your go-to resources to do your job or even to just stay connected?
Well, funny you should ask. I find myself always falling back on some of my old-time favorites, such as Twitter. There's a lot of great people on Twitter, and using hashtags, finding a lot of information and innovative ideas on e-learning. It's always helpful to keep a good connection with Twitter. I have also found that Google Plus has been very good lately with their circles, and it's growing on me. But I just usually find myself now just focusing on, I have a lot of contacts I work with the Desire to Learn staff, because that's really the main platform that I'm using. I fool around with Coursera and Schoology and Edmodo. We have all these other tools that we do share, but with the DOE, we are using the Desire to Learn. So when I have issues or have concerns, it's really working with that team. I have my team that I really, we work with and share ideas with, but that's pretty much what I do.
And you do a lot. So you just said
it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 8 to 4. On the weekends, late at night, it doesn't end. Because we have schools, like we have these schools that are part of our program, they're called the YABC program schools, and they go from 4:30 to 9:30 at night.
What grade levels?
Basically, so they are for overage kids that really can't be in a regular high school, and they're a part of our program. And even though my day ends at 4, their days are just starting, and they still need support, and they're going to have issues, and I have to sometimes be on call to handle an issue or fix a class, because if something's broken, if content is missing, if the kids aren't being enrolled properly, that all falls on me. So I need to make sure that this e-learning platform is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for over 260 schools, hundreds of thousands of kids. And it's a tough position. And there's only one of me. I can't take all the credit, though. We have a great staff. We all work terrific together. So it's a really joint effort.
Nice.
But, even this morning, I find myself doing a couple of support tickets. But
like you said, a few minutes ago, as a teacher, as an educator, this never ends.
Never ends.
So now that you've been exposed to the House of EdTech, and now my audience knows that you are knowledgeable in learning management systems, let's expand and advertise you beyond the 260 schools you support. How can people get in touch with you to, pick your brain further?
Thank you. Well, for, everyone just follow my EdTech Maestro Twitter. Just the EdTech Maestro, one word. Also look for me on Google Plus. I branded my name, so everything is EdTech Maestro. You can find me on Facebook, EdTech Maestro, Find me on Google Plus, EdTech Maestro. Find me on Twitter, EdTech Maestro. I don't blog anymore for various personal reasons. I was never good at being a writer, and I don't find myself being able to create these long posts using blogs, and I just find blogging is really old-fashioned in my book. So I'm more of a curator. I'm more of a discoverer, and I find things that people have found, or I try to find new things and then share it quickly and easily. And I don't like to dwell too much on certain things. So that's why I choose not to blog, but you can certainly get me Twitter, Facebook, Google+, edtechmaestro.com, and also josephiacono.com. And Chris could probably give you the correct spelling a little bit later on in his podcast. But those two sites will have links to every one of my public profiles. YouTube, you can follow all my videos, support videos I have with e-learning. And ScreenRs, I do a lot of screencasting, screen recording for my support and for my schools. I mean, a lot of it is focused on desire to learn, but I do have a strong foundation for e-learning in general, and I can certainly support schools and provide any type of help from anyone that has a question. I'd be more than happy to assist. So
That's what it's all about nowadays, is sharing what you know and answering questions for people that need the help. So I got to thank you. I know I kept you a little longer than 15, 20 minutes, but the conversation is good, and you shared a lot of really great information that I know teachers can find useful, from how to develop their learning management system to the different tools and resources they can use to make that as meaningful as possible for their students. So Joseph Iacono, the EdTech Maestro, thank you for being here. And I know I will be able to call on you again to be a part of the program.
I want to thank you, Chris, and I'm really happy and excited to see the things that you're doing, and I'm really looking forward to hearing this podcast, and I hope that it becomes really as successful as we both know it can be. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir. I will talk to you soon.
And now let's get into this episode's EdTech Thought, which is something that's on my mind related to education and technology. This thought is kind of spurred on by my current master's research, which deals with professional development. My research focuses on how teachers get professional development related to technology, how teachers use technology, and how teachers integrate technology into their teaching and their lessons. So this week's EdTech Thought deals with how do you as a teacher get what I'm calling independent professional development. When I say independent, I mean it's independent of your school and what your district may provide for you for your professional development and growth as a teacher. I came across this great article and website by Joe Wood of joewoodonline.com, and he has a great article on professional development. So I'm going to kind of go through this article, and I do want to give Mr. Wood the credit here. Again, joewoodonline.com. And Joe makes these great recommendations, so let's go through them. The first thing, stay local. If possible, attend events close to your home. This way you don't have to worry about paying for a hotel or major travel expenses to go learn something to improve yourself. Connect with the local affiliates of local organizations, perhaps your county association or even your state education association, through the local colleges, universities, their teacher programs, and see what workshops they are offering. Connect online. Number 2. Some of the best professional development that Joe has experienced, and even myself and a lot of the people I engage with, we experience it online, and it's completely free. You can use Twitter or a number of social networks to attend free, engaging, and highly informative educational chats every single week. For example, on Sunday nights, I attend, virtually, I participate in the Principal Cast podcast. And I actually have a great blog post coming out. Well, I can't say tomorrow because I don't know when you're listening to this. But go to my website, mr.chrisnessie.com, and check out my blog post that has Smallville in the title, where I talk a little bit more about my love for the Principal Cast podcast. If you're listening to this on February 2nd, this blog post hasn't come out yet. Past February 2nd and February 3rd, please go and check out that post. Number 3, attend an ed camp. Ed camps are completely free, and they're also spontaneous. Ed camps are an opportunity to share what you know while learning from other teachers and education professionals. Ed camps occur throughout the world, and they can be found on the EdCamp wiki, which is edcamp.wikispaces.com. And honestly, if there isn't one in or near your local community, gather up some of your colleagues and consider hosting and organizing your own ed camp. This past fall, I attended my first ed camp event in New Jersey, EdCamp NJ, and the unconference concept is amazing. If you've never participated, it's definitely something you need to check out where you are in your neck of the woods. They encourage teachers to, one, you're leading the sessions. It's not a bunch of sponsors or vendors or companies that come in to, present, and, you're just kind of you're being sold on something rather than getting a true learning experience. And the EdCamp group encourages you to, attend a session, and if it's not something you're interested in, get up, walk out, and find something else to do. If you show up at an EdCamp event and there's something you're passionate about and you want to lead a discussion in a session on it, that's what it's there for. Run a session, have the conversations that need to be had about what is interesting to you. So consider the EdCamp or the unconference route for some independent professional development. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Number 4, still staying with the whole conference concept, consider presenting or volunteering at a conference that you even want to attend. Oftentimes, and I have experienced this, if you're a presenter or a volunteer, they waive the registration fee. So that lessens the expense of having to pay to go attend a conference. So if you're willing to facilitate and run a session, or sometimes if you just want to volunteer to stuff bags, they will waive the fee. And if you've never considered presenting at a conference, it's something you should definitely think about. This past fall, in October of 2013, I went on the Mr. Nessie presentation tour. I presented at a community college in Pennsylvania, and I presented at an unconference at not EdCamp, but EdTech NJ in New Jersey. And then I also presented at Caldwell College at the end of October. And it was a presentation on social media, something that I'm passionate about using and integrating into the classroom. And, I put together my notes, my presentation, and, I went and I toured this around, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And it was a real blast and a lot of fun to teach other professionals something that I'm passionate about. It's one thing to teach your students your passion, whether it's social studies, science, but when you can work with other teachers and colleagues in your field, that's something that I think is really special, and you should definitely consider, trying that out. The next thing you should consider, pick up a book. If there's a book that covers a topic, consider connecting with the author of the book. Books are extremely valuable, and they're also an inexpensive resource because you can go to Barnes & Noble or your local bookstore of choice, find a book on a topic that you're interested in, reach out to the author, see if they're out on social media, on Twitter, connect with them. If you show a passion and an interest for what they're interested in, they're more likely to want to engage with you, and you can learn from them. And getting it, I guess you could say, getting it from the horse's mouth is pretty valuable, and why not give it a shot? Invest in yourself, the last one. This is not something that I personally would have the ability to do, but maybe you have the ability to consider setting aside 2 to 5% of your salary to fund your own professional development. Setting money aside could be used to pay for grad school tuition. Perhaps you're kind of on the cusp of you're on the fence about maybe going for that supervisor certificate or that administrative license. Setting aside the money would be able to give you that opportunity. In my own experience, I'm currently finishing my master's. I didn't take out loans. I was able to kind of do the out-of-pocket plan, cash only, which was really nice as somebody who doesn't want to use credit cards and, be in debt and be in that hole of owing money to somebody. So if you can set some money aside and build up a little nest egg for continuing your education, why not? Just make sure you save your receipts and things for your annual tax meeting with your accountant, or in my case, TurboTax. And remember, you can't learn everything or attend every event, so don't put that pressure on yourself. Instead, choose a focus for the year, similar to your professional development plan at school, or your professional improvement plan, and pick a focus and work on one thing and try and learn as much as you can in, a 10 or 12 month period, and grow in that area. Beyond that, beyond these points of staying local, connecting online, attending an ed camp or an unconference, and considering being a presenter or a volunteer, or connecting with an author, or even just making that monetary investment in yourself. I want to know, what are your thoughts on independent professional development? Send me a tweet, email me, call me. I'll give you the contact information at the end of the episode. I'd like to know, how do you get your professional development that you consider independent? Have you ever considered it? I'd love to get your feedback and get some of your thoughts and air them in a future episode when I can reflect on this topic further. It's now time for this episode's EdTech recommendation. And this week I have a unique recommendation. It's not necessarily an app or a website. I would like to recommend the 5 a.m. Miracle podcast hosted by Jeff Sanders. And that's of jeffsanders.com. If you're a regular listener and a follower of podcast, then this is one you definitely need to check out. The 5 a.m. Miracle podcast is a weekly program that's dedicated to helping you dominate your day before breakfast. I was turned on to this podcast by my wife, and I've been feverishly trying to catch up, and I've listened to about the first 10 episodes. Jeff's goal is to help people take over their day and accomplish more and get things done and complete early in the day. So check out the 5 a.m. Miracle podcast, jeffsanders.com. Now it's time for the second House of EdTech VIP. Based on this episode's content about where you get professional development that's independent of what's required of you or provided to you by your school, this week's House of EdTech VIP is Mr. Jeff Bradbury of TeacherCast. You need to add Jeff to your professional learning network. Jeff is on Twitter at TeacherCast, C-A-S-T, and Jeff is the founder of TeacherCast.net, which is one of the best, to my knowledge, it's the only teacher-driven professional learning resource available. When you reach out to Jeff, please tell him that Mr. Nessie sent you. I've been corresponding with Jeff recently because he's one of the people who has inspired me to start this program, and he's somebody who I've met a couple of times at some different conferences in New Jersey over the past year. And Jeff is one of us. He is currently a teacher, and he runs this fantastic network of websites and programs. He's behind the Principal Cast podcast and a number of other podcasts that are teacher-driven, teacher-created, and he's a resource of incredible knowledge, technology-wise, to your content area. So connect with Jeff Bradbury at TeacherCast. He's the House of EdTech VIP this week. That's going to do it for this episode of House of EdTech. I am Christopher Nessie. You can check out the show notes for this episode at mr.chrisnessy.com/2014/02/House of EdTech 3.html. Please keep the conversation going. Visit my website at mr.chrisnessy.com. If you have a question or comment that you would like me to address on a future episode, I definitely encourage you to send me a voicemail. You can also click the SpeakPipe button on my website, or you can call me at 732-903-4869. You can also email me at Nesi, nesi.history@gmail.com, or tweet me your comments or questions at Mr. Nesi. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating this podcast in iTunes and writing a brief review. Your 5-star rating and positive review will help get this show in front of people who haven't seen it and might enjoy it. Before I leave you, my Super Bowl prediction. Broncos over the Seahawks, 31-24. Thanks for listening today. Remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.